Hello everyone, welcome to another video talking geeky stuff with me, Tenshi. And today's is Asian Cinema Part 3. Hope you enjoyed the little clip I edited together. So today's Asian Cinema will be about, let's get this animation going, Korean movies, or more precisely South Korean movies. And here is some movies that I think are really good, fantastic movies. And also, just like my previous two Asian cinema, is a great access point for people who are new to Asian cinema, who wants to maybe give it a go. So here's some of the good films that I recommend. I think they're great and fantastic, and a lot of variety here as well. So let's start talking about Korean movies. I think definitely in the last decade, or maybe a little over the last decade, I personally think they've become, in Asia anyway, the best movie makers. I would say in the mid 80s to maybe even to the early 2000s, I would say I enjoyed Hong Kong cinema more, and I even enjoyed Japanese cinema more, because now I love the samurai films. And as for Korean movies, I only watched kind of like small ones here and there, but never really got into it. But the one that really, I felt that, not just for me, but I think in a way for the world, put Korean cinema on the map was The Host. I think that came out about 2006. Could be wrong, can't remember now. I remember watching the cinema. Of course, you got advertised like Jaws meets Jurassic Park and so on and so forth, right? I mean, I love creature films in a way. I love all that kind of monster movies, creature features. I love all that stuff. And so, yeah, I went to see them, watched it. I thought it was a really good film. Special effects are still good for this. Still good now. I mean, for that time, considering, when it comes down to movies, especially special effects, as much as Asia is improving a lot, but there's no way near as good as the American movies when it comes to special effects. So when I watched The Host, I felt, wow, special effects were pretty decent considering the budget, right? And it was actually a fun story because it's quite quirky in some parts. It's actually quite funny. And I think that way I went, okay, Korean films are becoming a bit more serious now. They've got good story now, good acting, great special effects, and so on. They're putting a lot of budget as well behind it. And when I mean budget, I mean kind of from Asian point of view, where that budget is considered pretty high. Then of course, Old Boy came out, and that got some amazing praise. He won a lot of awards. Watched that, great film, great twist to it as well. I thought it was fantastic, and it deserved all the awards and mentions that he got. So that kind of like slowly kicked in, and I kind of got into a lot more Korean movies. Then I got into like a lot of people recommended me, or that time you had like loads of advertisement for, if you like this kind of film, you might like these, and so on. So I remember watching a few war movies, and I watched Brotherhood. That's what it's called in the West. Set in North and South Korean War. I thought it was really good. Action scenes are great. Set pieces are fantastic. It's actually quite sad. It actually made me cry. Two brothers and so on. Definitely checked out. Then of course, after that, I was kind of craving a little bit of war movies, and I got into My Way. You can see My Way was kind of production-wise bigger than Brotherhood, but Brotherhood had the emotion side to it. Not to say My Way was still pretty emotional, but watch that. That has some fantastic battle scenes. I mean, you kind of got to give credit where credit's due for Steven Spielberg when he did Saving Private Ryan. I think after that time when Private Ryan came out, I think that all war movies kind of had that standard. And, Saving Private Ryan kind of set that standard for that type of action. And I think those two films really kind of like captured that moment quite well. And then I tell you what's a good film as well was The Man from Nowhere. That was awesome. I mean, there's a lot of films. I remember seeing like on YouTube, there was like an Indian version of it because the last scene was fantastic. The gun shooting, the kind of hand-to-hand combat, that was amazing. Thought acting was great. The lead guy is good. Definitely want to see him in a lot more stuff. That's 10 years old now, come to think about it. 2010, 2011, so that's a fantastic movie. Then speaking about creature features, after The Host, I was kind of eagerly when I heard about that Sector 7, great little movie. Nothing special, but I just enjoyed it. As I put it here, it's a really good movie. And then The Flu, because I remember watching that film, right? The funny thing, I watched that and Contagion around the same time. I know The Flu came out 2013 and Contagion came out originally 2011, around then, but I watched Contagion like a year or so afterwards. So I thought Contagion was really good. I mean, considering how the world is now, right? But I felt The Flu was actually better. I mean, he actually beat Contagion overall, as in the scope of it, considering that you watched The Flu, I thought, wow, that's fantastic. And you don't realize it was actually the budget was lower. I felt he actually felt like a bigger film than Contagion. Acting was great, very suspenseful. Some funny parts here, it's got light-hearted moments, and of course, considering how the world is now, watching it again is actually really good. And then I'll tell you another good one is, if you like a good old-fashioned comedy action, is The Good, the Bad, and the Weird, or Good, Bad, and the Weird. Yeah, that's it. We all know that is kind of like a homage to The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, Clint Eastwood. But I felt that was really well done. The three actors are fantastic, good action sequences, funny, quite quirky, and that came out about 2007, 8. Definitely check that out if you want some good action comedy. So that's definitely that. He makes no excuses. I mean, you watch the film, you can clearly see the director is a big fan of the Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns. Then, of course, you got we talked about some of the creature features, more modern gangster movies and so on, kind of World War kind of movies. But of course, a couple of good ones was like period dramas like Warring Currents, or as in the UK we call it Admiral and the Warring Currents. That was fantastic. Loosely based on a real incident when the Japanese invaded all those years ago. I mean, special effects, good. I mean, considering, like I said, I still think it's really good. If you're a fan of John Woo's Red Cliff, Red Cliff was based on the Three Kingdoms story. If you're a big fan of that, or you like that kind of movie, definitely check out Warring Currents. And then, of course, War and Arrows. I thought that's a great movie. It's loosely based on the true incident that when the Qing dynasty, tried to conquer Korea and certain parts of South Asia, because the Qing dynasty already kind of just conquered the current dynasty in China, the Ming dynasty. They conquered all that. So it's loosely based on that. And there's some really good arrow action scenes. I thought they did some really good set pieces. The cinematography was great. How they really initialized the bow and arrow to its fullest. I thought that was really good. Then, of course, what makes Korean films so good nowadays, I think that, unlike, say, Hong Kong cinema, is like their speciality is always that either the comedy, like the Stephen Chow comedy, or the gangster triad / undercover cop movies, right? Anything else kind of outside of that, they kind of fail a little bit, That's the problem. Where even in Japanese films, they're good at certain things, but I think South Korean movies in the last decades has kind of like they're actually good in all genres. You got good action scenes, films, right? You got great storylines, you got great special effects, and of course, recently they've been smashing it on zombie movies. I mean, check out Train to Busan. That was fantastic. The tension is great. You can see the budget wasn't as big as some of the American zombie movies, but it was a hell lot better than all of them. Then, of course, Parasite. I mean, it won an Oscar, right? Drama movies now. So South Korea has definitely got the fingers and everything, and they're doing such a good job in all those genres. It's fantastic. So out of all the Asian countries, cinema-wise, I think South Korea is definitely the best now. I mean, China recently the China out of all the whole Asian countries, the richest country, right? They put a lot of money and budget in there, a lot of big films. But the problem is, China is like, they got the budget, but they can't seem to execute a good storyline, a cohesive storyline. They seem to kind of mess up a lot, where I find where the Koreans is, they actually model themselves over American movies, where they have Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, great storyline, great acting. Whenever they set their genre, they keep it within it. They don't kind of go, oh, suddenly change the script, go this way or this way. That's where I think a lot of the Chinese films are kind of fading in the last decade. Where they had the budget. I mean, China's one of the richest countries in the world, but they can't seem to give a good story. They don't know how to do like the set pieces. Sometimes it seems to be just like Act 1 and Act 2 and Act 3 doesn't seem to follow suit that smoothly. So that is why I think now, especially in the last 10 or so years, Korean movies are definitely at the top, like I mentioned earlier, because, I mean, look at the list here. You've got drama, you've got action, you've got the virus movies, you've got zombie movies, creature features, war movies, drama movies, comedy, even a slice of life like Parasite. So definitely, if you are a fan of Asian movies, I'm not just saying that, I'm not trying to discourage anyone not to watch Chinese or Hong Kong cinema and stuff like that. There are some pretty decent ones where China is releasing quite a lot of movies a year. Maybe they have like 20 releases, maybe a handful of them are good. Same with Japanese. I think Japan's always been my second. It's like back in the day where I used to like Hong Kong cinema the most. Japan was second, then Korean's third. Now the table is turned where Korea's my number one, but Japan's always stays second. And then, of course, the Chinese Hong Kong film has dropped down to third. So, definitely check these movies out. They're fantastic. Yeah, and if you like these kind of things, Asian cinema, please give us a like and subscribe to more Talking Geeky stuff with me. And I'll be talking a lot more about other cinema. So I have to say thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Please stay safe. Goodbye.